foodborne illnesses and fatalities recorded in various parts of the country, which have led to the tragic deaths of children and resulted in several hospitalizations in Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Free State, and Limpopo. The President will address the nation in the interventions of the government is undertaking to deal with this situation. In the meantime, the Department of Health has activated the National Institute of Communicable Diseases to trace and examine the source of the poisoning of foodstuffs and make recommendations. And the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, supported by the Department of Small Business Development and the Interministerial Committee on Disaster Management, have gazetted the standard draft bylaws for township economies aimed at mobilizing municipalities around a common agenda and a collective response towards inclusive local economies and curbing illegal business operations in our townships. Cabinet extended its condolences to the families, friends, and schoolmates of all the children who lost their lives due to the foodborne illnesses and sent its well wishes to those still in recovery. On the fight against crime, Cabinet condemned the senseless killing of Nkoskazi Tenjiwe Eunice Nonile Mtraha at the Mkekezweni Great Place in the Eastern Cape and conveyed its condolences to the Amadlomo royal clan and the entire Abatembu kingdom. Law enforcement agencies will bring the perpetrators of this crime to book. Cabinet also condemned the rape of 5 learners who were also robbed at gunpoint in the Mkekezweni administrative area. The net joints have been instructed to speedily curb the escalation of the levels of criminality, including murders in the Eastern Cape, and to ensure all perpetrators and masterminds are brought to book. Cabinet commended the intelligence-driven operation led by net joints in the fight against illegal mining and the Operation Valamgodi that have led to the arrest of more than 1,000 illegal miners at abandoned mine shafts in Orkney in the northwest since the weekend of the 2nd of November 2024. Cabinet welcomed continued efforts to strengthen the capacity of the police with the deployment of over 2 in December 2024, and they will be ready for the festive season deployment. Cabinet calls on all South Africans to partner with the police in the fight against crime by reporting incidents of crime on 0800 10 111 and the dedicated National Extortion Hotline, which is 0800 9 10-011 on extortion-related crimes. On international matters, the countdown towards South Africa's G20 presidency. The countdown to South Africa assuming the presidency of the G20 from the 1st of December 2024 to the 30th of November 2025 under the theme Solidarity, Equality, and Sustainability has begun. The Leaders Summit will be held in Johannesburg, Gauteng, and the IMC, which is the Interministerial Committee for the G20, is working with other provinces to host ministerial and working groups meetings. We will launch the South Africa G20 program on the 1st of December 2024. South Africa will, in the meantime, participate in the upcoming G20 Summit on 18th and 19th November 2024 in Rio, Brazil. On the International Court of Justice, Cabinet welcomed the filing of the memorial to the ICJ, which shows how the government of Israel violated the Genocide Convention through deliberate violations and murder of Palestinians living in Gaza. The memorial document of more than 1,300 pages, supported by exhibits and annexures, contains evidence of Israel's genocidal acts and its failure to prevent incitement to genocide and punish those inciting and committing acts of genocide. The filing of the memorial takes place at the time when Israel is intensifying the killing of civilians in Gaza and is intent on following a similar path of destruction in Lebanon. The memorial is a reminder to the global community of the atrocities perpetuated against the people of Palestine and the need for solidarity to stop the catastrophe. The filing also comes in the footsteps of the United Nations resolution condemning the actions of the Israeli government against the people of Palestine. On advancing global democracy, Cabinet extends its congratulations to the people and the government of the Republic of Botswana, Mozambique, and United States of America on the conclusion of their recent elections. Cabinet commends the umbrella for democratic change in Botswana on its success under the leadership of President Duma Boko, and welcome the establishment of transitional plans between the outgoing administration and the incoming administration, which now is passed because the president has now been sworn in, so we have an administration in Botswana. Cabinet congratulated President-elect Daniel Chapo and his party Frelimo on their victory following the country's historic election, having been held 32 years following the signing of the General Peace Agreement, which brought to an end the civil war and introduced multi-party democracy in Mozambique. The ongoing post-election violence is a matter of concern, and all the disaffected parties should exhaust established legal remedies to resolve their election grievances and continue to build on the foundations of peace laid by the Maputo Accord for Peace and National Reconciliation. Cabinet also congratulates President-elect Donald Trump following the U.S. elections held on the 5th of November 2024. South Africa looks forward to working very closely with President Trump when he takes over the next 12 months, when President Cyril Ramaphosa assumes the presidency of G20 on the 1st of December 2024, and the United States of America will then take over from the 1st of December 2025 the presidency of the G20. On trade matters, outcomes of the state visit and participation in the Forum for China-Africa Cooperation, commonly known as full state visit to the People's Republic of China, and FOCAC meeting held in Beijing, China from the 2nd to the 6th of September 2024. Cabinet noted the following key outcomes for South Africa. First is an agreement to change the structure of the trade into more value-added manufactured products, particularly an agreement to exchange a list of 100 value-added products from South Africa that China will consider importing. 2, South Africa secured cooperation from China on 3 value chains relating to decarbonization, digitalization, transport, and logistics. This cooperation will pave the way to promote investments in electric vehicles, battery manufacturing, renewable energy storage, as well as identified special economic zones and industrial development zones. And key Chinese investors in both Shenzhen and Beijing expressed interest in either to expand their investments or for greenfield investment into South Africa. During the business forum, 6 memoranda of understanding, during the state visit, 6 memoranda of understanding were signed aimed at promoting cooperation between Chinese entities and South African companies and development finance institutions to strengthen cooperation to promote industrial development in South Africa, promote technology cooperation to advance decarbonization of key South African sectors and value chains, and to promote investments in the renewable energy sectors. The agreement signed both at government and private sector level will contribute to accelerate investments that promote green and local carbon transformation and promote innovation in industrial activities, and also attract investment in special economic zones and industrial park. In particular, the groundbreaking memorandum of understanding, which we have worked with China on over the period of the 6th administration, the agreement on the import or how to manage the export of beef from South Africa to China, even under conditions of foot and mouth disease, where now the restriction on export of beef from South Africa to the People's Republic of China is restricted. Is only restricted to the areas where foot and mouth is not prevalent, but where the areas where foot and mouth is prevalent, then there will be a moratorium instead of the usual blanket ban on the export of beef from South Africa. Now the ban in case of foot and mouth will only be to the areas affected by foot and mouth, and the continued exportation of beef will then take place. On the economy, the medium-term budget policy statement, Cabinet welcomed the 2024 medium-term budget policy statement, which gave effect to the commitments of the Government of National Unity to pursue rapid, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth and create a more just and equitable society by tackling poverty, inequality, and unemployment. The stability in the public finances through the prudent management of government spending and debt ensures that our country can stimulate economic growth while ensuring the most vulnerable in our midst continue to be supported through our social assistance program, including the SRD grants. There were people who were spreading misinformation that we are seizing the SRD grants. That is not true. The Minister of Finance was very clear about the provision for social SRD grant, social relief for the distress grant. Cabinet supports the 4 pillars to uplift the economy through microeconomic stability, implementing structural reforms, building state capacity, and increasing public infrastructure investment. The country is also on track to be removed from the Financial Action Task Force grey listing that have already addressed 16 of the 22 action items identified ahead of the FATF reassessment in 2025. The MTBPS is part of our nation's open and accountable budget cycle that allows for medium to long-term financial planning of our nation's finances. It also allows South Africans to hold government departments and entities to account on spending and gives investors surety over the country's economic direction. And you have seen indicators from the rating agencies that they are reviewing our grading level given the commitments made in the MTBPS, which gives encouragement on growing the economy of South Africa. On tourism, the launch of the country's summer tourism campaign, which encourages South Africans and visitors from across the globe to explore the country's hidden tourist gems found across all our 9 provinces, has begun. Gimme South Africa short-lived campaign will profile local tourist offerings to allow more South Africans to enjoy, explore, and experience our nation's hidden tourist attractions. In strengthening the tourism sector, Cabinet welcomed the gazetting of the Trusted Tour Operator Scheme, which streamlines the visa application processes for large tour operator groups from China and India. And this is the joint efforts of the Department of Home Affairs, Tourism, and State Security, and the Presidency. The initiative addresses capacity constraints at foreign missions and aims to attract more tourists from China and India, which respectively account for 1.8% to 3.9% of all international visitors to South Africa. Interested travel companies can access the system by visiting touroperator.dha.gov.za or accessing the portal through the TTOS banner on www.dha.gov.za. Furthermore, the country's e-visa system has been rolled out to 34 countries to allow tourists from those countries to apply online for a visa to South Africa without having to visit an embassy or a consulate. And from the work we were doing in KZN last week and the Presidential eThekwini Working Group, we have a message that it was at Durban. We are ready, the beaches are open. On water-related matters, the interim measures to supply drinking water to Hammanskraal. Colleagues will remember the problems that we confronted in Hammanskraal with the contaminated water of the Rooiwal. Cabinet has received and considered progress made by the Department of Water and Sanitation and Rand Water to provide drinking water to the city of Tshwane to enable it to supply drinking water to the people of Hammanskraal on an interim basis. The ongoing water supply problems that have hit Hammanskraal and surrounding areas continue to negatively affect the lives of the people, including the provision of healthcare services at local facilities such as the Jubilee Hospital. The city of Tshwane is currently implementing a 278 million project to repair the previously dysfunctional Rooiwal wastewater treatment works. It is expected that increasing the capacity of the Rooiwal will cost about 2 billion rands, but Cabinet was informed that the city of Tshwane will have to fund this project through revenue, borrowing, or its urban settlements development grant allocations from the Department of Human Settlements. In 2023, the Ministry of Water and Sanitation directed the Magalies Water to urgently intervene in terms of the Water Services Act, Act number 108 of 1997, and to design and install a new water treatment plant at its Klipdrift Water Treatment Works near Hammanskraal. This will help to ease the water challenges and provide long-term solution. This additional water treatment plant will supply water to certain reservoirs in the city's water distribution system to increase the supply of clean drinking drinking water to Hammanskraal. Government has urged the people of Hammanskraal and surrounding areas to be patient while the works is underway. However, the water from this interim water treatment, the Klipdrift water treatment works that was done by Magali's Water, will now commence to supply water to Hammanskraal whilst we are waiting for the completion of the renovation work and the upgrade work of the Rooival. Government has urged the people of Hammanskraal and surrounding areas to remain patient and to use water sparingly. And on the 15th of November 2024, the Klipdrift water treatment plant will start to extend potable water to the city, to Hammanskraal through the city of Tshwane. Municipal debt to water boards, and we have spoken about this before. Cabinet received an update on the ongoing outstanding municipal debts to water boards, which is rising and is becoming unsustainable, with a total of 23 billion owed by the 31st of August 2024. The debt threatens the financial viability of water boards and the entire water sector. Water and Sanitation Minister Honorable Phemi Majodina recently met with several of the affected municipalities and received commitments to pay from most non-paying municipality. Cabinet has previously approved the establishment of Interministerial Committee to address municipal turnaround, and the IMC will prioritize measures to address municipal debt payments to water boards and ESCOM, more especially so that we don't have the water banks that become bankrupt. The Minister of Water and Sanitation has reminded me to explain that the cities of Johannesburg and City of Tshwane are not owing any money to the Rand Water. They're up to date with their debts, more so given the issues between the City of Johannesburg and ESCOM. So it's important that we also appreciate the efforts that municipalities, in particular our metros, make to make sure that we get sustainable structures. We must continue to commend the efforts that are being done by Randwater. Plead to the people of Johannesburg who are not paying for services and who have done illegal connections that they must refrain from attacking municipal workers who are doing the disconnections. It must be done to protect all of us so that we can continue to have water. On that matter, let's talk about the water restrictions in Gauteng. Cabinet was appraised of the level 1 water restrictions that are in place in Gauteng due to continued water demand as a result of high consumption caused by population growth, illegal connections, leaks, and misuse of water. The average consumption in Gauteng is 279 liters per capita per day compared to the international average of 173 liters per capita per day. Whilst the metropolitan municipalities in Gauteng have level 1 water restriction in place, very little enforcement is undertaken by the municipalities, and the minister has urged them to do the enforcement and to plead with the public to make sure that we use water sustainably. Otherwise, level 2 water restriction will have to be put in place. You will recall that we, because of maintenance, the Lesotho Highland Water scheme has been closed for maintenance. The channel has been closed for maintenance, and that at that time we've closed it for maintenance. There was enough water to supply Gauteng up to the period of April 2025. Excuse me. However, with the continued high consumption in Gauteng, the misuse and the leaks in Gauteng, we may run short of water, and therefore level 2 water restrictions may come into effect if, as the residents of Gauteng, they do not uphold the water restriction and proper use of water. The establishment of the National Water Crisis Committee, we have already reported about this in terms of the IMC. The Cabinet supported the decision by the President to augment the work that is currently spearheaded by the Deputy President by elevating water matters as a crisis and establish a National Water Crisis Committee that will develop a water action plan and bring water experts in order to intervene to the nationwide water challenges in the local government sphere. This is in line, is similar to the interventions we made when we had electricity load shedding. We want to, the Inter-Cabinet is making this intervention early to avoid a national crisis of water shortages, and we know South Africa is a water scarce country. On the social-related matters, signing of the Divorce Amendment Bill into law, Cabinet welcomed the historic issuing of the first batch of 33 Muslim marriage certificates by the Department of Home Affairs following the signing of the Divorce Amendment Bill into law in May 2024 by President Ramaphosa. The bill amended the Divorce Act of 1979, Act number 70, to recognize Muslim marriages and safeguard the interests of Muslim women and children when those marriages are dissolved. These long overdue changes signal our country's commitment to ensure that Muslim women and children's rights to equality, dignity, access to justice, as well as the best interests of minor children as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa are upheld. They also give effect on fostering greater social cohesion, nation building, and a shared national identity, as well as honoring various cultural and religious traditions. Cabinet decisions. We'll start on the decisions of Cabinet meeting of Wednesday, the 23rd of October 2024. 2026 local government elections. Cabinet approved the establishment of the Interministerial Committee that will oversee preparations for the 2026 local government elections, with the previous local government election having been held on the 1st of November 2021. The next municipal elections will be held between 2nd November 2026 and 1st February 2027. The IMC will be convened by the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs and consists of several government departments that are key to ensuring the delivery of successful elections. Cabinet also considered and approved the formula for the determination of the number of councillors in terms of Section 20, subsection 1A of the Municipal Structures Act. The 2026 municipal elections will be the sixth such elections since the advent of democracy in 1994. The IMC will work with the IEC and other relevant bodies towards ensuring that the process leading to the local government elections is smooth and peaceful. Bills. Cabinet approved the publication of the Intergovernmental Relations Framework Bill 2024 for public comments. The bill seeks to make amendments to the Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act of 2005 to ensure that the different spheres of government work in a coordinated manner and factor in the other innovations that were brought in the 6th administration and the 7th administration. The amendments will correct some sections of the Act that have become outdated and will ensure that the three spheres of government work together to improve service delivery in meeting the needs of the people. Cabinet decisions of the meeting held on the 6th of November 2024, 16 days of activism campaign against gender-based violence. Cabinet approved the conceptual approach to the 2024 16 days of activism campaign against GBV under the theme 30 years of advancing collective action to end violence against women and children, which emphasizes the importance of a whole-of-society approach to combating GBVF and the importance of multi-sectoral accountability. This year marks the 26th anniversary of South Africa's participation in the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children campaign, which will be launched on the 25th of November 2024 at the Royal Bafokeng Stadium in Northwest. This supports the global campaign, which runs from 25th November to 10th December. This year's campaign continues to address the root causes of GBVF while promoting positive masculinity and gender equity, along with creating economic opportunities for women and children. While more than 1,000 GBVF perpetrators were convicted between 1st of April and 31st September 2024, we still have more to do as a nation to eradicate the scourge of GBVF from our society. Disability Awareness Month of Cabinet approved the concept and the theme for the 2024 Disability Rights Awareness Month and the National Day of Persons with Disability, which runs from the 3rd of November to the 3rd of December 2024. The theme for this year is celebrating 30 years of democracy, creating a disability-inclusive society. The theme emphasizes the importance of raising awareness about the challenges facing persons with disabilities, promoting and protecting their dignity and realizing their rights as enshrined in the Constitution. Resolving existing barriers affecting people with disability includes ensuring resourceful, sustainable, and safe environments for them, and also recognizing that not all disabilities are visible. The month-long activities will raise awareness and showcase the progress the country has made in ensuring the protection of the rights of persons with disability. Government calls on all of society to work together as partners in building a sustainable and disability-inclusive future. Policy on the prevention of and treatment of substance use disorders. Cabinet approved the policy on the prevention and treatment for substance use disorders, which aims to provide a comprehensive response framework to address challenges related to alcohol and substance abuse faced by communities. The policy supplements existing interventions such as National Drug Master Plan that was implemented between 2013 and 2017 and responds directly to gaps identified in the Prevention of and Treatment of Substance Abuse Act of 2008. The policy proposes community-based prevention programs that effectively address major challenges from substance abuse. It is underpinned by 3 pillars: the demand reduction pillar, aimed at preventing the onset of substance abuse or dependence; the supply reduction pillar, aimed at reducing accessibility; and the harm reduction pillar, which includes treatments of substance use disorders and related activities. The focus is both on reducing damage caused by substance abuse to individuals and communities. This can be achieved through prevention, early detection, early intervention, treatment, and other related measures, aftercare and reintegration services. The policy is published by the Department of Social Development and is available on their website, www.dsd.gov.za. And updates to Cabinet on the state of mining in South Africa. On the study conducted by Mintech, the report provided a comprehensive and up-to-date information on the latest developments in global commodity markets, mineral production trends in South Africa, the mining industry's contribution to gross domestic product, investment, and employment creation. The report also serves as a critical resource in identifying impediments to the development of the mining sector in terms of the future economy of the country, which is key contributor to the growth of South African economy. We don't only consider the mining sector as a sunset industry, we also consider it as a future industry, and Cabinet will receive an update on the critical minerals plan of the country and our approach. And this approach is based on Cabinet's focus on growing our economy, making it an inclusive economy, including the participation of local communities. Report on the phase 4 of the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative in the basic education sector. Under the theme of Basic Education Employment Initiative, Cabinet received a briefing on the achievements of the Basic Education Employment Initiative, which is the large-scale public employment intervention targeting unemployed youth between the ages of 18 and 35. The intervention also seeks to address the high levels of youth unemployment in South Africa. Since its inception in December 2020, the initiative has created approximately 1.1 million job opportunities for youth aged between 18 and 35. The program has also helped the country to confront the devastating economic challenges caused by COVID-19 pandemic. And it has placed 240,342 young people in schools as education assistants and general school assistants. The assistants received the monthly stipend of more than 4,000 per month. Cabinet agreed to the proposal by the Department of Basic Education to continue the Basic Education Youth Employment Program for the 2024-2025 and 2025-2026 financial years. On appointments, all appointments are subject to verification of qualifications and the relevant and the the relevant security clearance. Mr. Neville Maji as the CEO of Brand South Africa. Appointment of Ms. Keta Okuhle Vincencia Ranto as the non-executive director of the Land Bank. Appointment of the CCMA governing board, which is led by Dr. September Cornelia Carroll as an independent chairperson, Ms. Rafaji Ajem from Organized Labor, Mr. Soli Petro, Mr. Weissman Dinto. Mr. Soli Petro is also from Organized Labor, Mr. Weissman Dino, Mr. Sfiso Lukele, Organized Business, Mr. Keza Moyane, Ms. Sibion Leiden, Ms. Unati Ramabrana, who's the state representative, Ms. Ntswaki Mama Shela, and Mr. Lucky Charles Mohalaba. Upcoming events, the 16 Days of Activism campaign, which I've already spoken about, the Pan-African Parliament, the 4th ordinary session of the 6th Pan-African Parliament, which is a continental legislature for representatives from all African states, is taking place from the 4th to the 15th of November 2024. Messages on congratulations. Cabinet extended its congratulations and well wishes to Ghana's Foreign Minister, Shirley Oyako Bochwe, on a recent appointment as the next Commonwealth Secretary General. Ms. Bochwe will assume her 4-year leadership of the 56 Nation Association on the 1st of April 2025. The group of 5 South African students who graduated with their Masters in Maritime Affairs degrees from the World Maritime University in Sweden. Their studies were funded by the Transport Education Training Authority, which is one of the sector education and training authorities mandated to facilitate skills development. And this is important as the country looks in developing our ocean economy and strengthening participation in what we call new and emerging and green economies. Banyana, South African Women National Soccer Team, for reaching the final of the COSAFA Women's Championship. Our team lost on penalties against Zambia, but they continue to do us well. We extend our congratulations to Coach Desiree and her ladies. South African swimmers, Chadley Close for winning gold in the men's 200 butterfly, and Peter Coetzee for winning gold in both the 100 meters and 200 meter backstroke, as well as silver in the men's 50 meters backstroke at the 2024 World Aquatics Swimming World Cup in Singapore. On condolences, we have already expressed our condolences to the Abatembu Kingdom and to the parents, friends, and schoolmates of the learners who have died due to the foodborne illnesses. But we want to extend our condolences again to the family and friends of Professor Noel Chabani Manganyi, who was a distinguished academic, scholar, psychologist, and a public servant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the comprehensive statement. Let me also acknowledge Amira, who also joined the team for the sign language interpretation. Thank you very much. Colleagues, the drill is the same. We will start with questions at the Imbizo Center here in Cape Town, and from there on we'll go for our online questions. So the drill, there is a button next to you. You just press it, you identify yourself and the media house that you represent. You introduce yourself and the media house, and then you go for questions. You can start with my brother that side, and then I'll take yours, and then I'll take you, and I'll take you. 4 in that order.
Thank you very much. My name is Dawood Ali, as a correspondent of Al Arabi TV. What kind of evidences in the memorial file which is submitted to the ICJ, and where international parts are joining in the preparation of the file? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good day, Minister. Paul Bekialta from Bloomberg. On the Mozambique elections, apart from activating the SADC Troika, are there any other steps the South African government's prepared or willing to take? And just how concerned is the South African government over the situation in Mozambique? And do you think it'll come to some kind of resolution soon? And do you think it'll come to some kind of resolution soon? And then on the US elections, with the result, how does this change the South African government's policy towards, for instance, AGOA? Does it mean the South African government, for instance, has to double down on its efforts to make sure that South Africa remains within that US law? And that kind of thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tim.
Good morning, Jan Geiber, News 24. Minister, you spoke of on the food contamination issues, and you said that the President will address the nation. Can you tell us when that will be? And also, is there a special cabinet meeting on that topic? And then secondly, was the withdrawal of the SABC bill, was that discussed in cabinet? Thank you.
Understand that side.
Dennis Dalport from Netwerk 24. Minister, Fikile Mbalula recently said during a march in Tshwane that if so, the SANDF should be called in to help with the issue of spaza shops. Was there a discussion within Cabinet to deploy the army to help in this matter? And then secondly, just for clarity, you spoke about the social grants and said that it's not true that government will stop it. Is it under consideration, or is it totally off the table? I mean, I've seen various news reports that said, you know, the government is looking into it, but it's not a done deal. So can you just give some clarity on that matter as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe Minister, we can just take the last one.
Hi, thank you, Minister. Babalo from EWN here. Just on the U.S. presidential election, will this change anything as far as Palestine and Gaza are concerned? You know, as far as that is concerned, we know the current administration is non-relenting in its support for Israel. Do you perhaps, as the South African government, expect anything different, maybe now in this lame duck period before January or post-January, inauguration? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you very much. Let me start with the issue raised by Dada. The evidence in memorial is a number of exhibits. If you see the amount of papers, over 1,000 pages of the memorial, the evidence include incidences where children were shot when they were just walking in the streets, the attacks on hospitals, a number of this. The evidence is available on the ICJ website, and what we've submitted, you can go then and download. Whether we had assistance from international parties, the rule is that we need to submit our own memorial, and the parties that have opted to join and support South Africa will then file supporting memorials like in all other cases, and so that is the approach. Let me go to the issue around the food contamination. It's both the issue that is raised by, I didn't get his name, but I got your name. The issue around whether there is a special cabinet. There is work that we are doing in the ministerial committees to make sure that work is done. In the statement, we have indicated the work that has been done by the Interministerial Committee on Disaster Management. Also, the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster, it continues to do work to prepare for the President's address, and as the overall committee responsible for the net joints work. There is no discussion of deploying the military as in terms of sponsorship. In terms of work that is underway, we think between ourselves as the security cluster outside of the defense, we have capacity to handle what has to be handled. The President will address. I do not want to preempt when, given the work that is still being done by the committees. I'm aware that the JCPS Ministerial Committee is going to meet again this afternoon. We met yesterday. We're going to meet again this afternoon to just finalize the issues in preparation. So depending on the various aspect and the various committees that are working. If you've seen the work that is being done by provinces, including in particular province of Limpopo and Gauteng, when that all work that is integrated back into the joint effort, the President will be able to address. If we complete that work with sufficient time today for the President to address, he will address today or tomorrow, but he will address within this week the nation in terms of the integrated manner of work. Then whether the special cabinet, of course, we'll have to go and account if there's joint multiple committees that are working. We'll have to go into a special cabinet. Whether that special cabinet will sit today or tomorrow or any other day within the week is still up in the air, depending on the completion of work of the various ministerial committees that are working. But when cabinet has met, we'll then notify that cabinet has met. And fortunately for me, I will not be the one doing the briefing. The President will then address the nation. So that's how you're going to get the briefing from that specifically on the issue. On the issue around the SRD grant, that is the dandle, not dandle. I think we are confusing ourselves intentionally. The Minister of Finance has announced that this SRD, there was going to be, remember the MTDPS makes provision for the next financial year. He indicates that the next financial year, which is the 2025-2026 financial year, there is provision for the SRD grant. But work continues to be underway. Not from finance only, but also the Department of Social Development. There's an interministerial committee, I think, that is, or a team that is working on the sustainable intervention measures, whether we go the basic income grant route or we then go to an alternative mechanism. And that is what confuses people. We, as government, we accept that the SRD grant remains an essential intervention. But that intervention may not be sustainable. Even the people are saying it's not enough. So what is the best sustainable measure? So we continue to engage with that until we find a replacement solution. The Minister of Finance will have to continue to make an intervention, and that is the focus. So we should not confuse work that is being done to find more sustainable intervention with the continuation of the SRT grant. I think that's what we need to clarify, because there's that confusion. And in terms of the SABC bill, the SABC bill is not a bill of, is not a private member's bill. It's not Minister Malatsi's bill. It's a bill of cabinet and the executive. So in terms of the law, he cannot withdraw it without coming to cabinet to agree for its withdrawal. That bill was submitted to cabinet after it was approved by cabinet. It was submitted to Parliament after it was approved to Cabinet. The Cabinet Secretariat and the Leader of Government's business will deal with that matter in the next Cabinet meeting, because there's no minister, even myself, I can't withdraw any bill which has been approved by Cabinet unless I've tabled a bill. Remember, they are private members' bill. Unless as Khumbudzo Ntshavheni have tabled a bill. Whatever the limitations the minister may find in the bill, he must come and convince cabinet to say there are these limitations in the bill, and for this reason, this is the amendments I want to make in the bill, and therefore I'm requesting cabinet to concur with me to withdraw that bill. So it was not discussed in cabinet, and it's not his bill. It's what we call an executive bill. So we are very clear on in terms, and the rules and the laws are very clear on how that gets treated, and we are going to address it as such. And then. Which one? Should I start with the U.S. elections or the Mozambique elections first? Okay. I'm flipping. Let me start with the U.S. We have indicated as South African government that we relate with the U.S. government. It doesn't matter whether which administration is in place. Our relationship, our trade relationship is with the government of the day. And we continue to engage with the government of the day on issues, whether they are trade issues or whether they are other diplomatic-related issues. Our view is that our participation in AGOA is anchored by the value that South Africa adds in the AGOA process, and how its participation adds value for American businesses and the American economy. So that is the position we maintain. So it will depend on when the administration changes, whether what engagements they want to have with us on that AGOA. But our posture is that AGOA is not a singular way beneficial to South African and African countries. It's also very beneficial to the American economy and American businesses. And every country works in the interest of its own national interest, and any U.S. administration will work in its own interest. We don't have a view of what will be the foreign policy of the U.S. Government under President Trump when he comes into office around Gaza and Palestine, and we don't believe that it's a view that South Africa must have. Our responsibility as South Africa is to continue to engage and lobby countries of the nation, including the USA, to support the position that we hold. How they take it, it's a question beyond our control, and therefore we don't want to express a view on that. It remains the decision of the US how they'll relate to the issues of Russia, Ukraine, and Gaza, Palestine, Israel vis-a-vis the Palestinians. But our view is that we must articulate and engage them on the policies. You know, we've deployed an ambassador in the U.S., in Washington. Ambassador is Ibrahim Rasool, to continue to engage. That's why we are very active in those engagements. On the Mozambique issues, I think we need to be very clear on the following. There were elections in Mozambique. SADC sent a mission, the AU sent a mission, a number of entities sent a mission. SADC and the AU, and I'm talking about those bodies because they are bodies that South Africa is a member to. They released a report on how they deemed the elections, and in the bulk of the SADC report, the provisional report of SADC and the provisional report of the AU, they indicated that the elections, despite few hitches, they were generally free. There was no violence in Mozambique during the elections. There were no incidents of violence or intimidation reported during the elections, which is the voting. Mozambique, like South Africa, like Botswana, like the USA, they've got a mechanism and a system of disputing elections. The problem in Mozambique started when the provisional elections were issued by the Electoral Committee. And it is the view of South Africa that all parties that are not happy with the elections outcome who are disputing, like we had in our own case in South Africa, we had parties that lodged disputes, including not only to the IEC, but they went as far as the Electoral Court. The incitement of violence by an aggrieved party is not acceptable, because it will mean we will not have elections in any country in this continent where there's a party that is not that is dissatisfied, because then we will all incite violence and want to change the electoral outcome through violence. The parties in Mozambique must submit their grievances and their evidence of displeasure or dissatisfaction through the Constitutional Council and allow the Constitutional Council to adjudicate on the matter. There's a period allowed for the Constitutional Council to adjudicate on the matter. We are concerned by the incidences of violence, and we want to call on all parties in Mozambique, in particular the ones who are inciting violence, not to incite violence, because they are setting a wrong precedence. Democracy must work even when it works against you. And as a minister in the government of national unity coming from the ANC component, imagine if the ANC was dissatisfied and called for violence in this country, having achieved 40% of the vote. What would have happened? So we must take it from that point, that if we allow parties, because they are not happy with provisional elections, even without exhausting the dispute resolution mechanism, then they can then incite violence. The parties must make their submission, and in line with the constitutional or the regulations that are set in those countries, like the regulations that are set in our countries to dispute elections and get those elections adjudicated. Imagine if in Botswana, President Masisi and his party did not also accept the outcome of the elections and called for violence from the people of Botswana. What would have happened? Before President Botswana or Masisi, imagine if President Khama also called for violence in Botswana. What would have happened? We cannot continue to plunge our continent because we don't like the party that has won. And there's a narrative out there against the party that has won. We cannot allow any contender to election in the SADC region in the African continent, where we are starting to build democratic government and holding consistent and continuous predictable elections, to let parties who are dissatisfied plunge us. We have listened to the calls by the security establishments of Mozambique that they are in control of keeping peace. We have engaged through diplomatic channels to make sure that there is no disproportional use of force against those who are demonstrating. We have also observed and engaged to say those who are protesting must do it without destruction of property, because everybody has a right to protest. But South Africa is not the chairperson of SADC, neither is the chairperson of the SADC Troika. South Africa is not a big brother within SADC or the African continent. So we subject ourselves to the protocols of SADC, and will await the SADC meeting, the Troika meeting that is established, that has been convened. I think it's for the 21st, if not the 20th of November, to meet and explain and discuss their own report and the way forward. As the neighboring country to Mozambique, we are concerned about the spillage of if Mozambicans flee from their own country. That's why our Border Management Authority and our law enforcement authorities continue to engage with their counterparts to make sure that we've got minimum harm in the economy of this country, but also to make sure that Mozambicans do not feel threatened in their own countries to flee to neighboring countries, which South Africa will be the major receiving country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Paul, is it there for
Just a clarification.
Yes.
So, Minister, it would be fair to say that people in Mozambique, you're telling them to follow the example of South Africa and Botswana, which have had peaceful elections. Would that be a fair summary of what you're saying? Sorry, can you hear me? So would it be fair to summarize what you're saying is that the people of Mozambique should follow the example of peaceful elections in Mozambique and South Africa? Not Mozambique, Botswana and South Africa.
That is very fair, to follow the dispute resolution mechanism set in place. Because if you are not happy with the dispute resolution mechanism set in place, you cannot then complain about it after the fact. They should have raised a complaint against the dispute resolution mechanism set in place before, and within as the participants in the constitutional structure, including the Parliament of Mozambique. We need to become a region and a continent that set rules and play by the rules, no matter when those rules do not favor us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister, there's a lot of activity on our online platforms, but for now I'll request Nandipar to take the first 6 questions. I see some of the questions the Minister have.
Good morning. We have 6 questions. The first question comes from Kinelue Huma. Minister, what's your take on the developments around the leadership at SAFA? Second question is from Thando Mayeko from Business Day.
Before you proceed, can you ask Kinelue to explain what are the developments in SAFA?
Okay. All right, thank you, Minister. The second question comes from Thando Mayeko from Business Day. Has the Cabinet received a report via the Minister of Health on the outcome of medical examinations conducted on the children that died from food poisoning? What measures will government be taking going forward on the matter, particularly regarding public health risk arising from food supply chains? Is the government considering declaring a state of emergency over the matter? Third question comes from Given Mohuamang from Dipolitiki News. Did Cabinet even discuss Zama situation in Klerksdorp and ongoing Spaza sagas? The fourth question comes from Mervyn Adams, who is a freelancer. He asked, Minister Ntshavheni, could you please provide an update on South Africa's current trade relations with Israel? Additionally, has the Cabinet discussed the recent Bella Act protest where ministers were seen marching along individuals carrying the apartheid flag? Should the public interpret this as a government supporting the old apartheid symbols? The fifth question is, good day, this one is from Sinesipo Schreiber from Time Live. What is the position of the cabinet on the call for closure of spaza shops after food poisoning related deaths? Donald Trump has committed to strengthen the U.S. relationship with Israel. Is the cabinet not concerned about the SA ties with the U.S. after Trump election as South Africa continues its ICJ case against Israel?
You can read the last two. I see they are linked.
All right. This one is from Heidi Giokos from ENCA. Calls for President Ramaphosa mount from him to address the nation and give the direction on government handling of the poisoning of children. Did Cabinet not discuss this? Will the President address? And the last question comes from Quinini Maswabi from Sunday World. This one has got two questions. What are the odds of the local government municipal coalition bill being signed before the 2026 elections? Second part is, the minister says cabinet also considered and approved the formula for the determination of the number of councillors in terms of section 21 and subsection A of the Municipal Structures Act. What is the formula? What effect will it have on small parties? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister will take the last batch after you have responded to the ones that have been submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we need to advise the journalists not to send the questions before we finalize reading the statement, because some of the questions are things that I've directly responded to. I've indicated that the President will address the nation when and a special cabinet will be convened when the different ministerial committees and departments that are working on the various aspects of the work that needs to be done regarding spaza shops is already done. So I will not answer the question on whether Minister Motsoaledi, the NICD, has done the investigations and what are the findings. I've already indicated the President will address the nation. The question of whether we've discussed the ongoing saga of spaza shop, I've already responded to that, and whether the President, so those are will not respond to, because those were substantive that affairs. So I do not know what are the developments that need cabinet. I think the matters that relates to SAFA, they must be asked to SAFA. Least government is accused of interfering, and when we are accused of interfering, it will mean SAFA then gets banned from participating in both CAF and FIFA, and that will have severe impact on our sporting, in particular football community. So I would rather shift those issues unless the specific issue that relates to that requires government in terms of that. But in terms of the rules of FIFA, we don't get involved at all. And there was a question of whether we are not worried about the pronouncement by President-elect of the USA, President Trump, that they are going to strengthen their relationship with Israel and so forth. As I've indicated, we don't regulate the relationship between our trading partners and our diplomatic partners. We are concerned with our own relationships, and we service our own relationships. Who our trading partners and diplomatic partners relate to is none of our business. Our business is South Africa's relationship and national interests. So let's not obsess about who's elected president in a way. We must obsess of who's president in South Africa. That's what we need to obsess about, because that's what determines our foreign policy approach and our standing in society. That's what we need to obsess about. Other countries, let's not obsess, but South Africans must always remember that the government of South Africa will always have the national interests of South Africans. Our priority in terms of foreign policy is South Africa, a better SADC, and a better Africa, and a better world. In that order. We start here, get to the region SADC, get to the continent Africa, and then to the rest of the world. That's how we approach things. And all that we do in the national interest of South Africa and our contribution to the common good and better humanity of the world. Because if the world is not in harmonious, there's no global peace, South Africa on its own cannot survive. Then there's a question around the Bila Act protest. Let me start at this point. That you have heard the Minister of Basic Education, Honorable Siviwe Gwarube, at the Imbizo on Friday in Mkababa, eThekwini, where she announced that the Department of Basic Education have started measures to prepare for the implementation of the Bila Act. That's the focus of Cabinet. The ones who march and hold apartheid symbols, it's for South Africans to know what type of leaders they have. That you have leaders in various parties who continue to embrace apartheid and wish to reverse us back to apartheid. It's not a cabinet issue. Our issue is whether the Bila Act is going to be implemented or not. And the minister has come out in public. The other ones, the political parties will use that in campaigning to remind South Africans that this one supports the apartheid flag and symbols, and therefore they want us to go back to that heinous period where South Africans were not equal, where the scourge of apartheid and racism was deemed a violation of humanity. So that's for you to write about. But for us, is the implementation of the Bila Act to redress the exclusion of people, of children within the schools, within their own radius because of language. As a country, our policy is inclusivity and promotion of all indigenous languages. There's nothing stopping a school teaching in English to teach in Chivenda if the dominant children in that area also Chivenda speaking, or provide dual teaching. The Department of Basic Education during the 6th administration of classes higher than grade 3 in isiXhosa in the Eastern Cape. And that's the rollout we're expecting the Department of Basic Education to promote and to work and put resources in place that all languages can have access to their own, all languages can have the access to teaching and learning. But there will not be a protection of exclusive rights of others in public schools. Public schools must remain accessible to all within that vicinity. And they cannot be laws put by school governing bodies that exclude other people to participate. Within the radius that they are in. And the spaza shops, the question around, have we ever discussed the situation? We have reported about it in the statement, and that's why I say, colleagues, don't write questions before you hear us. Try to hear us first and then write the questions. That's why we have also structured the cabinet statement so that you can predict with issues that are coming from the environment. We then explain what government is doing on current affairs and contemporary issues, and then we get to the government, to the cabinet decisions. So anything that relates to spaza shops, including whether they'll be called to ban, whatever, I'm leaving it to the president to address. And then there was an issue around the local government municipal coalition bill, whether it could be signed before the 2026 elections. Before we talk about it being signed, we must talk about it being processed by Parliament and finalized by Parliament before then. So you need to ask, the Sunday World will need, and yourselves will need to ask Parliament whether they'll be able to process that bill and conclude it before that time. And also the question to the Department of COGTA, whether that bill will be submitted to Parliament for processing before time. After the two houses, excuse me, after the two houses have considered the bill, then we can ask, will it be signed before the 2026? So we are now putting the horse before the cart. And it's really unfair to ask me what the formula looks like. I think we need to engage with the bill, engage with the proposal that's available in public, and ask the Department of COCTA to say how what is the interpretation. What we need to always remember is that how the representation of public representatives, whether in local government, provincial, national government in South Africa is governed. There's a provision in the Constitution that requires representativity, including the proportional representation requirements. It's a provision of the Constitution. I just forgot the clause. I was trying to recall what clause it is that deals with that one. And then there was a question of whether we are going to send help underground to those Amazamas, South Africans. You want us to send help to criminals? You want us to send help to criminals, honestly? We are not sending help to criminals. We are going to smoke them out. They will come out. We are not sending help to criminals. Criminals are not to be helped. Criminals are to be persecuted. We didn't send them there. And they didn't go down there for the good benefit or good intentions for the Republic. So we can't help them. Those who want to help them, they must go and take the food down there. They will come out, we'll arrest them. You remember there were the other ones who burnt in a methane gas explosion. You remember? Was it last year? Yeah, last year, if not early this year. Last year. And you said we must send people to the soldiers to retrieve them and expose them to methane gas. So you want us to send our law enforcement officer to risk because criminals went to destroy our country? What if when we send police or the military down there to supply them with food, the place explodes and caves in? What will happen? So families must continue to sacrifice because criminals got themselves in a bind and we must come. No, we're not sending any help. They will come out. Whether we're going to retrieve the bodies, it's not our job to retrieve bodies of criminals. When we asked whether families know if their children are involved in Zamazamas, nobody came out and said they know. So if your child is missing because they are dead in underground on illegal mining activities, you must come and tell us why didn't you come and report them that they are undertaking criminal activities. Our program is to smoke people out and close the holdings so that they cannot be illegal mining. That's our program. It's only in South Africa that you are told a criminal does not have a comfortable bed in prison. I didn't expect that question. Anyway, thank you for the questions, unless there are other follow-up questions.
I think, Minister, on the online version, the follow-up questions, you have responded to them, but I see in the house here in Mbizo in Cape Town, I have two hands, which I will then take. Let me note and recognize you. Maybe you can use the next.
But I can hear.
Minister, you said earlier that Cabinet welcomed the submission to the ICJ of the documents that was
Memorial filing.
memorial filing.
Yes.
Does that include
Maybe you can also introduce yourself. Thank you.
Just clarity, just short clarity on SABC bill. I mean, I heard your explanation on the process that must be followed before withdrawal. Are you saying Soli Malatsi, the minister, did not follow this process? And if yes, he didn't, will this meeting, this matter being discussed at the next cabinet, will he be wrapped over the knuckles in that cabinet meeting if he didn't follow this process?
I think in the Imbizo Center, I don't see any other hand. Minister, you can proceed.
The issue, I've got an explanation, the issue around the SAFA, it's about the warrant of arrest. The cabinet do not get involved in the prosecution of individuals. Remember, the investigation by the police and the prosecution by the prosecution authorities, it's independent and is done based on the merits of the. So we don't comment on any one person or the other. Whether it's a politician, whether it's a private individuals, we don't get involved on those things. We don't discuss those things. It's not our space. And then the question around the billable, Minister Malatsi did not come to cabinet for that. So we'll assume he did not know the process. In cabinet, we don't have a tendency of wrapping people up their nails. No, ministers are not ministers of cabinet appointed by cabinet, they're appointed by the president. But ministers in cabinet, we engage and correct each other in terms of position. Wrapping over the knuckles is not our business. Our business is to say this is how things get done, this is how we do, we support this move, we don't support this move. That's what we do. This includes the follow-up question on whether the ministers that must have indicated our obsession is with the implementation of the Bill Act. The other ones who participated with the apartheid symbols and carried the apartheid symbols is for you to write about and for South Africans. And there's a question around the memorial, whether they are DA ministers. There are no DA ministers in cabinet, there are no ANC ministers in cabinet, there are no PA ministers in cabinet, there are no IFP ministers in cabinet. There are ministers of cabinet under the government of national unity, which is the 7th administration. So cabinet welcomed the submission of the memorial to the ICJ. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your time. You'll watch out for the updates should the president, when the president is going to address the nation, we'll keep you posted. And